What's up, YouTube? My name's Jason from Walrus Audio. Welcome to the next edition of New SKU. We are so excited to dive in and reveal a new pedal today. But before we do, let's meet who we're talking with. You guys want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Yeah, my name's Eric. I'm an engineer here at Walrus Audio.
My name's Emmett. I'm also an engineer, and I worked on the digital aspect of the pedal. Eric kind of took the lead on the analog and hardware aspect.
Hardware side.
Nice. So we'll call this edition of New SKU When Colt's Away, the engineers will play. Colt's at NAMM, Phillips at NAMM, all those guys are at NAMM. We're here back in Oklahoma getting to talk to you guys about a new pedal. So we'd like to introduce the Lore Reverse Soundscape Generator. This is a really fun pedal we've been working on for a while. It's based around reverse textures, reverb, and delay. It's really great for ambient sounds. We'll dive in a little deeper, but it's a dual DSP pedal. It's got analog feedback path, multi algorithms, and we're just really excited to dive in. But before we do, let's listen to it first. Let's cue the pedal play, Austin. Told you. Welcome back from Neverland. This thing is just an ambient dream. Like, it's so much fun to play this style of music, ambient, huge soundscape sounds, and we're just excited to dive in and talk about the pedal a little bit more. First, just a little bit of background maybe about the pedal and how it came to be. We started thinking about the idea of reverse textures quite a while ago, and we started thinking, as we're thinking about reverse textures, we're thinking about how do we make this interesting, like what sort of reverse sounds could we come up with. And somewhere along the way I had this idea, this sort of signal flow architecture kind of just popped in my head, and I just ran in, wrote it down on the whiteboard, brought everybody in, and we sort of realized like that's what we should do for the whole like reverse ideaed pedal. So that's based around 2 DSP chips with their own analog feedback paths that feed out of the DSPs back in to the first DSP. Wrote that down on the whiteboard, started really brainstorming around that, and realizing that there were probably going to be some limitations to the hardware, and so just starting to work on figuring out what those are. But we quickly went to hardware from that concept, and then really got to dive in and start shaping sounds and algorithms and things like that. So it was really fun to come up with. It was really quick to come up with. Like once that idea showed up, it was like a really fast snowball. But just couldn't be more excited with where it's at now and how it turned out. So let's talk about like a little bit of like detail overview about the pedal. Maybe start with hardware, and we could talk about the controls and what they do, and maybe a little bit more about the signal flow architecture. You want to take us through that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So control-wise, up first, our first controls are the feedback and regen controls. So those are going to be controlling the gain of those 2 analog feedback paths. So feedback controlling the first one and regen controlling the second one.
So it's like the level of the signal that's going through the feedback path.
Yeah. And then so both of those feedback paths do tie back together at the first DSP chip. So like we have a lot of cool features where we were able to play with the outputs of the DSP chips and like tie those together with different options. And yeah, it's a really cool design of the pedal. And then up next we have the mod control that lets us add some gentle modulation to your pedal. You are able to control the rate via the bypass control secondary features.
Similar to like the slow or the fathom, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we have the mix control that lets you go from fully wet to fully dry and everywhere in between. And then we get down to the X control, which controls a unique parameter for each program, which we'll talk a bit more soon. And then we have time, which lets you control the time of your delays and reverbs in the pedal. And then tone lets you change your filtering for your wet effect.
How bright, how dark.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we have our 5-way rotary for the program control. So that lets you choose between the 5 algorithm sets that you can use.
Yeah. And then what about the switches on the bottom?
Yeah, so then we have our standard buffer DSP bypass on the bottom left. And then we have a tap tempo stomp switch that lets you tap in your time control so those can work together or override each other. And we have a hidden feature, well, not really a hidden feature, but your tap LED will either be green or blue. And depending on what that is, your tap stomp switch, if you hold that down, will either dive or rise your wet effect. So if it's green and you hold down tap, you're going to ramp up your wet effect. And if it's blue, you're going to ramp it down.
Yep. You heard some of those effects in the pedal play. And again, you're able to know which direction it's going to go based on the color of the LED. And you can change that on the fly too, right? You just click both stomp switches in the LED toggles, and you'll know if I hold it down, it's going to ramp up or down, depending on where it's set. So
and that ramp up or down is ramping up to the pedal going at double speed or half speed. So your delay times get faster, your filter cutoffs get higher. It changes both timing and tonal characteristic effects.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool.
It's so much fun to play with.
Yeah. You want to talk through some of the algorithms we got going here?
Yeah, I can take us through all the programs real quick. And being that it's a dual DSP pedal, each program is kind of based around one effect running into another. So like a delay and a reverb, for example.
In series.
With the 2 feedback paths. Program 1 is made up of reverse delay into reverse reverb. So the concept there being kind of all this reversal and re-reversal building up within that feedback network. So the signal just getting reversed, then reversed over again, and building up in this really unique and organic way. Program 2 is what we like to call a light reverb, which is reverse delay into a really breathy, expansive reverb tank and an octave up shimmer effect in the regen path. And that's kind of for creating this big airy ambient cloud. Sounds great with finger picking parts and stuff like that.
So you mentioned something right there that we shouldn't pass over. The shimmer effect is in the feedback path, but it's not in the main output, right? So that's one of the unique things about the pedal, that with these analog feedback paths, we can treat the feedback output of each DSP differently than the main output, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of like you'll hear the shimmer creep in over time, and because it's a feedback, it'll get higher with each repeat.
Yeah, nice.
But then you'll also hear it in the repeats of the first DSP at that same frequency, clean delay. So it kind of interacts in this organic way, and you can really dial in a lot of nuance with the two controls.
Yeah, and so that's controlled with the regen control. So if you have that down, you should not really hear much of a shimmer effect.
Yeah, and that's fairly consistent throughout like all the programs.
Yeah, awesome.
Program 3 is kind of a counterpart to Program 2 in that it's a reverse delay into a dark reverb, which has an octave down effect in the regen path and harmonic distortion applied within the reverb tank. And that's kind of, the reverb algorithm is heavily low passed, it has harmonic distortion, and it's kind of this really, thick, rich, dark, and murky effect. And it sounds especially awesome when that octave down is hitting the harmonic distortion section.
Yeah.
It gets thick and murky and just pretty wild. It's fun.
Yeah. Also, very responsive to dynamic playing. If you slam a chord, you can definitely hear like a different tone come out, which is something pretty cool. Program 4,
my
is,
favorite.
Yeah, I think it's all of our
the
favorites.
in-house favorite.
That one came out pretty good. That's a reverse reverb into forward reverb, and that one's really cool because you get the swell of the reverse reverb into the long diffused trail of the forward reverb tank. So it's kind of instantly turning your guitar signal into this beautiful swelling ambient pad. And one really cool feature on this program in particular is the time knob, which is doing time stretching of both reverb algorithms, which is essentially changing the sample rate for both.
It's
to
wild.
Be faster or slower, which is kind of like almost as if you're changing the size of the physical space that these two reverb algorithms are modeling in real time. That'll affect both like timing and the tonal characteristics. Like you'll hear the filters change from really short and bright to extremely long and like dark and a lot more.
All the delay
smoother.
lines change, right?
Yeah.
They change. They get shorter or longer as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it's both tonal and time based.
Spatial.
Spatial. Yeah. It's a good way. Yeah.
I think with everyone playing that program, the mix knob just goes all the way to the right, and you just take your dry signal out, and it's just like a beautiful pad that
Get
just
out of
goes
here, dry
on for
signal.
days.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
And then program 5 is cascading pitch delays to create what we call a dueling pitch effect, and that's where each DSP is running a delay line into a pitch shifter with independent pitch controlled by the X knob, and basically the pitch gets shifted back and forth in either of these complementary or opposing directions as it feeds back, and so it creates these really kind of elaborate and organic sequences over time. And that one's pretty cool because at longer delay times you'll hear it more like a sequencer, like stepping through a series of pitches, and then at shorter delay times it'll act more like a pitch shifter or harmonizer choir effect kind of.
They're all closer together, right?
Yeah,
Instead of being spread and stepped apart.
Yeah, it kind of smears together.
Yeah.
It becomes more of that like organ sound almost.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so really excited for you guys to dive into all 5 of those and hear sounds that you come up with. The lure starts pre-order today, and then it'll ship on June 23rd. You can of course get that from walrusaudio.com along with everything else, but you can also get the lure at any of the dealers, any of our Walrus dealers in the U.S. Or around the world. and it'll be $299. If you happen to be in Los Angeles for NAMM, it's available to play tomorrow through the rest of the weekend. We are at booth 5139 in Hall D. So you'll be able to go by, and there's multiple stations there at the booth. You can play it. So if you can get there, I would encourage you to, and you'll be able to check it out before anybody else. So do you guys want to dive in and maybe take some questions from the comment section?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Hey guys, how you doing?
Oh, hey, what is that Mia back there?
It is. It's Mia
Oh,
and
good grief.
And Chase is on the mic too.
What's up, Chase?
Both of them. Wow.
Awesome. Okay, for our first question this morning, I would like to hear from each of you what your favorite program is.
I'll go first since I already said it. It's definitely Program 4. With
Come on,
the
man.
mixed- I know it's the easy go-to, but it's so much fun to play.
I probably 4 is so fun to play. 1 is cool too. The texture of all the reverse going on in 1 is really fun. It's hard. It's a toss up for me.
My personal favorite, it's hard not to say Program 4, but I'd say Program 3. I had a lot of fun working on the dark reverb and the harmonic distortion.
Yeah.
Like that's an effect that I thought would be very cool in reverb for a long time, and I'm kind of happy that it finally found a home,
At one point, I think you asked me, how do you feel about harmonic distortion? And I think I was just like really good. I feel really good about it. And here it is.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. What else you got?
Okay. One thing we want to ask you guys is how is the bypassing set up on this pedal?
Yeah, good question. So very similar to the slow, the slope, the ARP, the Fathom. It's buffered bypass. And we do that, we use really clean op-amp buffering, and then it allows us to have trails, right? So in a big wet effect like this, most folks are going to love to be able to turn it off and let the trail naturally ring out. You can, however, set it to be a hard cut when you turn it off. So if you want to do that big, massive groan reverb sound and then a hard stop at the end of a song or wherever it might be, you can set it up to do that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. We have Skyview Design asked earlier, what kind of DSP platform is this? Is it FV1 based?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's 2 FV1 chips inside. So when we say dual DSP, that's what we mean. There's 2 independent DSP chips running in series with each other. We're big FV1 fans around here. You probably should know that by now with a lot of designs on that. We love it. And there's really cool sounds that you can pull out of it.
Yeah.
It's a good example.
Awesome. So I have a question from Coffee Table. What are the power requirements?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to be 9 volts with 300 milliamps minimum for your current.
Cool. We have a question from Trousers Pants that says, what sets the lower part as a time-based effect? They love their slow. A lot of love coming through.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think this is a completely different signal flow architecture internally, the multiple feedback paths like we mentioned, and then the whole idea of it being centered around reverse textures, a lot of reverse influence in the sounds. So it's definitely going to have probably all the sounds are really different from the slow, right? So if you're used to the slow, it's really awesome for what it does, but this is very different. So it's probably a good complement to the slow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'd say getting that that massive ambience is something this does particularly very well, creating a pad
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
So what are the pitch intervals on Program 5?
So on Program 5, the X knob steps through a combination of pitch intervals. It's basically you can step through every combination of fourths, fifths, and octaves. In
Up and down?
Up and down,
Nice.
yeah. The idea being that when it's all the way to the left, you're stepping down for both pitches, and then all the way to the right, you're stepping up for both pitches.
Nice.
And then in the middle, you're stepping in opposing directions, so it's getting shifted up, then shifted down.
Yeah.
And shifted back and forth, which sounds really cool. So you have that whole range you can step through.
Nice.
Nice. So what inspired the name for the pedal?
Yeah, we just started thinking about the idea of folklore and stories. And then we just, like, out of that came lore. We shortened it. And we had already had an idea for, like, fairy art and, like, really liking that. And then I think when we sort of heard the name folklore, that, like, the fairy art thing kind of came back and, like, instantly just matched up with the name really well. So went through several revisions with our artist and are just super stoked with how the art came out.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it also matches the sound of the pedal.
Totally.
Know, sounding
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Otherworldly. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, and really transformative on the guitar signal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
And I love, that's like my favorite color green. This one. Not that one. This one.
Very good.
It's not the 3D printed enclosure.
No.
Cool. Coffee Table asked another question. He asked, does it self-oscillate? I assume he means like pushing the feedback or delay into oscillation.
It gets close, right? So it's like right to the edge.
Yeah,
It's
basically.
very dependent on settings as well. You can talk about that some more.
I mean, basically, we pushed the settings as far as they would go without self-oscillating because the DSPs start to sound pretty gnarly if you're digitally clipping them.
Which can sound cool, but it's just one of those things where you have to, like, make judgment calls on how far you allow things to go.
Yeah, and we wanted to make this kind of more of a curated effect, you know? Like where you're kind of being brought through these different like effect worlds or
With a lot of intentionality.
Yeah.
And so it's just a little more reined in that way.
Yeah. Like different from designing a plugin or something where you just expose every feature and tell the user to have at it. Like we wanted this to be kind of something curated, so collaboration with your sound.
Yeah. Pedal design is all about what you don't put on the pedal. Put that on a t-shirt.
I have a question for you guys. Do any artists come to mind when you think of the soundscape the Lore can produce?
Yeah, I mean, Kenny Chesney, Tim McGraw, just like all those guys,
No.
don't come to mind. But yeah, I mean, a ton of people come to mind. Yeah, like
I always
Explosions in
think
the
of,
Sky,
Tycho.
Yeah, a big one for me was Pink Shiny Ultra Blast, which was cool because I was just talking to Shirley, who was on the pedal play video, and she was a she of them too. So
Nice.
that was really
Definitely
cool
some influence going on there, probably. Yeah,
those big shiny reverbs and kind of sound designy as well.
Yeah, nice.
Very shoegaze influenced.
Yeah.
What else?
Kind of a popular question, and this is going to be the last one that we have time for, but it's something I've been seeing since we revealed it this morning, is a lot of people are wondering if the pedal can handle the input of things like synths and keyboards, things that are at line level rather than guitar.
Yeah, so you can definitely use that with gear like that. You're just going to have to run the signal at a lower level that's closer, more in line with like a guitar signal.
Yeah. I saw a video this morning where they ran a Wurlitzer through it. So,
Nice.
like you're saying,
The
just turn
reverb
the
video?
volume down. Yeah. It's sick.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It'll sound good on your synths, guys.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Again, just super excited to let this like kind of come out in the world and let everybody get to see it and hear it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for people to get their hands on it and start playing with it very soon. One more time, you can pre-order it starting today. It'll ship on the 23rd. It's coming in at $299, and you can get that at walrusaudio.com or any of our dealers around the world. And if you are in LA area, try to make it to NAMM, get to booth 5139 and get your hands on it early and get to play it early. So yeah,
it'd be
super
worth
excited.
it for sure.
Thanks so much.
Rolling.
Water sometimes bad. Oh shit. And water deep. Speaking of deep, bass. Water is the essence of life. It is what we look for on other planets when we're looking for life. We look for water. That's crazy.
Hi, this is Jason Stolz, and I am Philip Hunsicker.
You can go weeks without eating food, but you can't go days without drinking water. You'll die.
Pedals, huh?
Yeah, I'd literally just
Asking about how the bad water is almost $600. Can you expand on that, please?
It's actually $600,000.
Yeah.
And you can take out a mortgage for 30 years at 3.4%,
Yes.
and
Wow.
be in debt to us for the rest of your life.
You literally can't find a better deal.